from Michigan originally. Initially, actually went to college for nursing and worked as a registered nurse for about 3.5 years before I transitioned into the personal training field. I just found a huge lack of actual health and wellness in nursing and pushing medications versus pushing things that help prevent or cure some diseases that maybe looking at like obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that. Found my true calling in personal training and working with clients one-on-one on helping them develop sustainable habits that will change their life into more of a healthy lifestyle. And that's what I'm doing now, which we can get a lot more into down the road on the podcast about why I transitioned into it. But now I work with clients one-on-one. I do some online stuff in person part-time, and then I do some group fitness classes. One of them actually starting up here will be tailored towards breast cancer surviving patients. So exercises specifically tailored to them and making sure that they have a good quality of life post cancer and through recovery.
Yeah, that's really cool. Where did the passion for that, wanting to make people better, come from in your life?
For me, I think I went through my own experience of being in a really negative place mentally and physically. So I was always really active in high school, throughout college. First, maybe 3 years, I would go to the weight room, felt really good, and then was working full-time, school full-time. Life got in the way, I would just say, and I just wasn't in a sustainable group. I didn't have friends that supported a healthy lifestyle, and I kind of fell off that train. And then I got into working, and I was working night shift. So I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 days a week. So I would try to flex back to day shift. So I was barely sleeping, barely eating, not working out, just overall really, really negative energy, really bad mindset. Physically was in the worst shape of my life, and slowly started to crawl out of it, where I realized, like, I was looking at pictures and I was like, there is no way this is me. Like, how did this happen? This was never me. And it was kind of a wake up call. So I just started adding in small things fitness wise. Like I ran track in high school. So I just started running after work for maybe a mile, adding back in some strength training when I got into the habit of doing that. And then, that's been, I want to say 5 or 6 years now. But that passion just came from seeing where I was at personally, living through it. And then when I was on the other side, looking back and being like, oh my gosh, people live in this their whole life. And getting out of it and being able to realize how much physical fitness actually impacts your life, and being around the right people impacts your life, for me, made a big difference. So I want to share that with people. And I think that's partially what pointed me in the direction of personal training.
And for you, when you kind of got into nursing, I know that I've heard some statistics about, and you kind of touched on it there, but some statistics about like general health and like how that can start to decline with like working any kind of night shift position, and like I'm trying to think of the exact thing I heard. I can't remember if it was on overall morbidity or if it was on like cardiovascular, but the percentage increase risk was just insane. I think it was like a 40% or something crazy like that when it comes to, like I said, either cardiovascular, I think, or like overall morbidity. But it's just crazy to think that like there's people out there that are taking care of other people and doing the best for them, and they have to suffer. They have to like have those risks associated with helping someone else. It's kind of sad that you have that, the necessity, I guess, for the help and for the position to be filled, but then at the same time, like that person is then at risk.
Yeah, I think that's a really challenging part of it. I mean, a lot of healthcare workers that I know are some of the most unhealthy people. So you're sacrificing your own health to take care of other people, which is necessary. It's very important that we have people working night shift. The hospital doesn't sleep. It's a necessary thing. And I had some nurses that I worked with. I had one woman who had worked night shift her whole life, and she loved it. And she had adapted to it. She had her sleep hours. She felt great on it. And then like people like myself, I worked night shift for about 1.5 years. And then I worked a flex shift where I was all over the place. And it was terrible for my health. I mean, I was sleeping maybe 4 hours on average, and sleep is like the number one thing for health overall, health and wellness. When you're looking at sleep, you're looking at your stress levels are through the roof all the time because your body's not resting. Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. I think there are some of those people that love the night shift and they find how to make that work with their life, and they can be healthy doing that. I was not one of those people.
Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. At what point did you finally kind of realize the passion that you had wasn't really matching? Like you wanted to help people, and obviously being a nurse, you're helpful. You're helping people, that of course, but like you wanted to help them from even getting to where they were maybe. At what point did you realize kind of that like you were maybe not in the right place to do that? And was that a hard thing for you to finally realize and be like, well, am I stuck here? Should I make a change?
I would say so. When I was in college, I did work in the hospital. I worked as like an aide and teletech. So I interpreted heart rhythms and rates. Also worked as a nurse's aide. So just helping with meals, bathing, daily activities. And I was like, oh, it'll get better. I'll graduate and I'll become the nurse. I'll get paid more. It'll be better. And then I would say maybe 6 months into graduating and working as a nurse, bedside nurse, I worked on a cardiac kidney type transplant unit. And maybe 6 months in, I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I'm helping people, but I'm not making any impact. Like this can't be all that there is. I initially wanted to go into emergency nursing. So I applied for a job in the emergency department, got hired there, worked that. And then I was like, whoa, this is definitely not for me. I thought this is what I would love. But even though I love what I'm doing and I am making more of a difference here, there are so many people that we're seeing repetitively that like we don't have the time to educate and actually make an impact on their life. Like we're just seeing them, treating them out the door. That's what the ER is for. And it was more of a lifestyle for me too. Like I'm like, there's no way for the rest of my life I'm working 12-hour shifts and picking up, and then I'm working a 16-hour shift and not eating. And I was dating at that time my now husband, and he's very entrepreneurial mindset. And he actually had left his job and was working on his own business. And he was like, you can do that too. And I was like, yep. I just don't know what path I want to take. Like I knew I wanted to help people. I wanted to work with people, be around health and wellness, because that's really important to me. Health and wellness is, for some reason, I've always been drawn to that since I was a kid. But I just didn't know how to. So I got out of emergency department and went into like a telehealth triage as I was phasing out of nursing, because I was struggling with the thought of like, all right, I have a consistent income. I know my hours. I know I'll always have a job. And at that point in time, I started working with a personal trainer because I wanted to learn how to be a trainer by working with one. I learned best by seeing like one-on-one exactly what it looks like. And her and I developed a really good relationship. She knew about my history, what I was looking to do. And like one random Tuesday morning, she came up to me when I was working out and she was like, hey, my boyfriend got signed to play football over in Europe. Would you be interested in taking my clients over? And I was like, whoa. I was like, I did not expect that to happen on this random Tuesday. Actually went into work that night and quit my job because I was like, I'll never have an opportunity like this again. And I had felt ready. Had taken like my course. I'm ISSA certified. So I had already taken my course because I knew I wanted to do it. And the opportunity just presented itself and I couldn't say no. Very thankful I had the support I had with my boyfriend and husband now at the time, because it was a hard transition to go from a stable, this is my paycheck, these are my hours, to, all right, you got to make it on your own.
Within the nursing world, do you feel like that there is a solution for some of the things that you were talking about there, with like not being able to get enough sleep, not being able to take a break when you need one, or, all those things? Like, is it just nature of the job? Or do you think that there's just like something missing there? There's some kind of like fix that needs to be made so that the nurses that, are taking care of these people, taking care of their patients, aren't in the same beds later on dealing with the same problems?
I think a lot of it comes down to a system problem. I really do. And I don't know what healthcare looks like outside of the United States, but I know I've worked a couple different locations in the Midwest. And they all struggle with the same things. It's staffing, it's how they treat their employees. And there's been some of the places I worked were better than others. But ultimately, I think it goes all the way down to the root of the system and like the business mindset. Businesses have to make money, obviously. You also have to have employees that are healthy enough to keep working. So it's like, how do we find that balance? And I don't know what the answer to that is. I hope someday that they're able to find that balance and we're not just burning through nurses left and right. I know that everywhere I worked, there's always been shortages. There's always people staying over. And I don't know, like I said, this is the Midwest where I've worked. So I don't know other areas, but that's been my experience with it, at least in the hospital setting.
And then when you did get into personal training and start kind of like having that hands-on experience working, kind of alongside somebody and figuring out really what it was it right away that you started to realize like, hey, this is something that I know I should be doing?
I would say right away I was like, this is it. But, and there was a but, I was committing to everything because I was like, I just want to get all as many clients as I can fit, as many classes I can teach. Like I was so in, I was all in. Um, and then like 6 months later, I was like, okay, we got to take a step back and like actually think about what's good for you and not just like overcommit to everything. But yeah, I mean, once I got into that role, it was pretty much like, this is what I meant to do. And I meant to work with people on like the front line of helping their health and wellness and actually making an impact on their long-term health. Like I had a client that came to me and she was pre-diabetic, A1C elevated, and her doctor was like, hey, if you don't get this down, you're going to be on insulin. And I worked with her, and over like 6 months, I think it was 5, 6 months, we got her A1C back to normal. So she was back to normal levels. So for me, that's way more rewarding than what I was doing nursing. Nursing is rewarding, right? You save lives, you get to do all this crazy stuff. I mean, I could tell you stories that are completely insane. But for me, I feel like I'm making way more of a difference, even if it's just on a one-to-one level now.
And is it hard or was it hard for you to go from like more of that structure and more of like a sense of kind of like you said, you know that you're always going to have like a position, like like everybody needs nurses. If you're a nurse, like you kind of know, like, okay, I have a job forever. And it's kind of that security, right? Was it hard to go from that and knowing like, okay, I'm working these days and these hours to, I mean, even when you first started, you were talking about like kind of doing everything and going down every road of training and personal training and things like that. But even now, like when you feel like you have maybe a better grasp on it, is it still like a weird kind of adjustment to make to go from like that structure to more of like figuring it out on your own a little bit?
It's definitely weird. At first, it was definitely weird. Like if I wanted to take a Wednesday off, I could just take a Wednesday off and move my clients to a different day. I was not used to that. I think that I developed way more discipline. I rarely cancel or move appointments now unless like I am in bed dying. So I think that's definitely different. The I would say I struggle with now the most. It's just not, if I don't train a client that session, I'm not getting paid for that hour. So it's not the consistent, like I knew every single 2 weeks what my paycheck would look like. There would be no variation from it unless I picked up overtime, then it'd be more. Now it's like if something happens and for some reason, if like one client's sick, like six are sick. So it's like, if I go from having one client cancel, now six cancel, I would say that more so is challenging for me still. And I'm about 3 years in, but outside of that, the structure and the flexibility in the fact that I am able to set my own hours, schedule when I want to. Like I'm a morning person, so I start my day or I start with clients at 5 a.m. But by noon, I've had 7 hours in. So for me, that's just, it works with my lifestyle. I have the discipline to maintain that, show up for my clients when they need me. And then obviously, if I need a day off, I'll rearrange my schedule for it, which works for me.
And having a nursing background, are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. Do you feel like that gives you kind of in some ways a unique perspective on like, you've seen what can happen if people don't take advantage of what you do. So does that like give you kind of like a unique, maybe selling point is a good word, but like it gives you like a realistic, like you can talk to somebody and say, hey, I know that this isn't maybe like the most fun thing right now and it's hard to adapt and it's hard to make these new changes. But if you don't make these changes, and then this is where you could end up.
I do. And I feel like people trust me a little bit more telling me some of their medical background just because they know that I've worked with it. I think that the biggest thing, and what I tell people, is you're investing in your health. Like, you're investing in your health now at the gym. And this is a long-term thing. We're going to create sustainable goals for you where you can actually do this for the rest of your life. But investing in it now means you're not going to invest in it on the back end, because regardless, you are going to invest in it on the back end if you don't take care of your body. Like, you're looking at medical bills, prescriptions, which none of that is cheap. And I know personal training typically isn't cheap, and people always look at it and they're like, oh, it's just so much money. And it's like, well, when I look at it from my perspective and what I saw in the hospital, you're actually saving yourself money by doing this. And also, your quality of life is improving now. Like, when you look at, I mean, there's people with quality of life that were in the hospital at like 58 years old that I'm like, I can't believe that you look like this at 58. Like, you look like you're in your late 70s. And then there's people that you see that are 58 in the gym and you're like, I would have guessed you were in your late 30s. So
Yeah. It's crazy to think that it's almost sad too to think that like people make their decisions in life and sometimes I guess have to make their decisions in life whether they want to like think long term and be like, healthy down the line and they want to have a high quality of life. A lot of that obviously is also dictated by like what you said, the monetary side of it. And it's sad to think that that could hold some people back. And I know that there's like a million different ways to be healthy that are zero cost, right? So that can be an easy kind of excuse to cut out as well as the money side. But at the same time, like we do live in a country where if you want a education or knowledge, and a lot of times you do have to pay for it to get, good information. I think things are changing when it comes to the world of like social media and podcasting. There is a lot of good information out there, but then it's the challenge of finding it and deciphering what is good and how do you know what's good and all that kind of stuff. But it is sad to think like we have monetized and we're also on our end, like on the health personal trainer, coaches, all that kind of stuff. And we're also forced to monetize because we also have to, buy food and enjoy and housing and all this other stuff too. Like that we're forced to monetize human health and like human quality of life. And
yeah, I agree with you 100%. And actually, going back to your topic, or just touched on social media, I think it's extremely difficult for people to wade through and find out what is the good quality content and what's not. A lot of people will have you believing that fitness is a one size fits all model, and it absolutely is not. I mean, yes, you can throw anyone in a calorie deficit and they'll probably see results, but is that sustainable for your long-term life? And I think that's one thing that people, you see them on the yo-yo diet or the yo-yo, they're up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's like, why aren't we talking about things that you can do that are sustainable for you? And obviously, again, programs sell, quick results sell. We live in a world of instance. We want an instant dopamine hit. We want instant responses to our messages. We can order food instantly off of our phone. So of course we expect to have these instant results all of a sudden at the gym. So that is what I think sells. And I think people will spend money on that because they expect the instance. But how do we maintain that long term? And then again, back to your point about spending money, like there's so many things that you can do. And there actually is a ton of education out there that is completely free to you on how to eat healthy, what you need to be building, how to develop healthy habits. Like, reading books is a great way. Listening to podcasts is another great way to like pick up little snippets of information to incorporate them into your daily life.
for you, when you look at like a person that's in the hospital, and I'm just like using them as an example, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that they're in the hospital, but their health is obviously at risk in that moment. And you would think that maybe they would like see like a light, be like, okay, I need to change my ways. I need to fix something. Like, do you think that people, when they do go to you or go to any personal trainer, that it's like, I've had this experience, so I'm willing to like do whatever you say? Do you think that that sticks around a while for most people, or do you think it's more like they come to you with like still apprehension?
I would say 70% of people want to find the shortcuts. 30% of people want to do what I say. And at the 30% typically are the ones that I'll actually work with long term, because they come, they get the results, they're willing to put in the work, and it becomes more of like I'm there to keep them on track. It's accountability for them at that point in time, because you can tell me you want these results and you want to do it and you're ready to commit all you want, and I can write you the perfect program. I can help you with your nutrition. I can make sure that you're set up for success, but you have to complete it. And I can't hold your hand and do it 7 days of the week. So I would say about 70% of people come initially apprehensive. And then I would say of that 70%, maybe another half stay apprehensive and eventually fall off, which is sad, but they have to want those changes. The other 35% are either nervous in the gym. They want to feel me out, which I completely understand. I also think it's extremely important to make sure the personal trainer that you're working with is qualified, is good quality. And also you get along with, if there's a personal trainer that you're working with and you guys just grind each other's gears, you're probably not going to stick with them long term. I mean, at the end of the day, there does have to be some sort of connection, either of okay, mutual respect, or I've had people, even I had a girl come up to me in the gym and she's like, I just want to be able to lift weights like you can. And I'm like, sweet, all right, cool. Let's just meet for a session. Let me get to know you. So I think that there has to be some sort of connection between the trainer and the client. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that about 35% of people say they want it, they'll stick with it for 4 or 6 weeks, and then after their program's done or after it's time to resign, they're like, I need to think about it, or didn't see the value, and then you just never see them again.
For trainers out there watching, what advice would you give them to help them establish that connection or kind of figure out if this is a good fit for, a client trainer relationship?
So I think one of the biggest things is personal training is personal. You have to go into it and actually care about the person and sit down and have a conversation with them about, okay, what are your goals? What are your restrictions? Where do you see this? Where do you see yourself in a year from now? A lot of times we'll get goals that are unrealistic, but you just have to be willing to tell the person, hey, listen, that time frame maybe isn't going to work, but here's what we can do in that time frame and keep you going. But I think the biggest thing is just listening to people. You have to be able to listen to your clients, sitting down with them instead of just going straight in and being like, nope, this is the way I do it. This is the way I do things, my way or the highway. You have to be able to meet in the middle, but I also think you have to be willing to, I mean, again, like I said, restrictions. If you have a client that comes to you and they're like, yep, I had 2 hip replacements and I broke my ankle and now I walk a certain way, and you have no experience with it, and you're not willing to put in the time to research and make sure that what you're building for that client is correct, then you should maybe look at seeing if there's a different trainer they can go to, because you're not doing them. It's a disservice to them. They're paying you for something that you maybe aren't even qualified to help them with, and it leads to injury, and then they fall off. And I think education is super important, and just being willing to say no, I'm just not qualified to take you on, but I can refer you to this person instead.
Someone's like, I'm willing to stick with you and I want to do this long term, but I want to go, at a snail's pace. If you recommend we train 3 days a week or 4 days a week, I'm only going to want to do one, or I'm only going to be 50% adherent to a diet, but I still want to do it. And I still want to have you there to keep pushing me to make those good decisions, even though I might not make them all the time. Is that something that you see as a good opportunity and a good client that you can maybe in a long-term view mold into someone who is more willing to make those better decisions later on?
It depends on the person. And that's a really vague answer, but it really depends. I can sit down with people and I can tell you that they're going to say that, and they're just a little nervous at first to go to the gym. And I know that they're like, oh, I can just do, 1 or 2 days, even though I'm saying 3 or 4. And then after a couple of weeks, they fall in love with it. And it's just that apprehensive gym nervousness, gym anxiety. And then I have the other group of people that they're like, I view the gym as social hour, and I just want to come in 1 day a week to chit chat. I don't really think that's a good opportunity for them or for me. Obviously, I want to work with people and educate them on why it's important to, I'm not saying 50%, right? If I'm saying you need to work out 4 days a week and you're saying I'm going to do one, I'm probably not going to meet you in the middle there. But I'd rather talk to you about why it's important that we have resistance training 3 to 4 days a week, versus being oh, this is just not going to work out. You can't do 1 day a week. So it's more of a conversation then, versus the people that are yeah, I can do 1 to 2 days. They're a little timid at first. Those people are always the people that end up sticking with it. They fall in love with it. They end up showing up 3 to 4 days a week. They hit their goals 80 to 90% of the time, I found. For everyone, at least the gym that I work out of, I'll use that as an example. It's kind of the easiest one to describe, but everyone that comes in, we get their phone number. So I'll text them to confirm that they're coming in. chat with them. I have their number. I also teach group fitness classes. I teach a combination of like a strength class, and then I do a boxing strength hit workout class. So I always invite them to come to the classes because the class atmosphere where I work is extremely welcoming, and it's actually a community. And if I can get people coming to class at least once or twice, then I'll like check in and be like, hey, you come into class on Wednesday. And then they know that I'm looking for them, or I'll follow up with a text like, hey, haven't seen you around. If I see them in the gym, I'll always say hi, always chat with them, see how things are going, catch up on what's new with them, just because I like to keep them. I don't just forget a face, right? Like I've met them, I've talked to them, I know their story, I kind of know why they're here, what their goals are. Like I want them to know that I see them. And when they are ready to make that commitment, I'm ready to work with them or get them to the person who can work with them.
And have you seen a trend one way or the other in the last year, 2 years, whatever it's been, that more people are starting to become interested in the fitness side of things, a healthier lifestyle for whatever reason? Do you think that there's kind of a trend in either direction, or do you feel like maybe it's kind of a same old, same old? Like, where do you think it's going?
I actually think it's starting to become a trend in the correct direction of like healthcare, or not healthcare. Fitness is becoming more talked about in healthcare. I think I'm seeing more people come to the gym, and I don't know if post COVID people are kind of awake to it. I don't know if social media, I don't really know exactly what it is, but more people are talking about it. I would love for insurance companies to get on board and like help pay for preventative care, whether it's a trainer, or doctors, physicians prescribing a personal trainer, having relationships with gyms and trainers, things like that. I think that would be great. And I could see that happening down the road because I do think that we are trending in the right direction. I think education it's way more available now. And I think people are starting to wake up to that.
Yeah, that would be cool for that to happen. I know obviously there's that kind of stuff that you can take advantage of for like if you have this thing that you take. Okay, it's kind of like the car thing. Like if you put this thing in your car and they can watch you as you drive or whatever they do, then you can get, money off. I think there's something similar to that, like if you put that at like a gym when you're there, then you can get like money off of your insurance or something like that. I've heard of before. So that would be kind of cool. And just other things, even if it's not directly like money, here's money for this. If there's some sort of like incentive to be healthy and to make those healthier decisions, or like, hey, if you keep your receipts and you can at the end of the year, how much money you spend on, Whole Foods or fruits and vegetables at the grocery or whatever, like you can write that off, or just like some sort of even like insurance incentive for that reason, or whatever it may be. I think that would be something really cool to do, just to, like I said, incentivize people, even if it's not a direct here's money for this.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And I hope eventually we do get to that point because I think that a lot of people would would take their health and wellness a little bit more seriously if they were incentivized for it, right? Like who turns down, I mean, not very many people I know turn down free money or like discounts on things. So it's like, hey, do this. And I know even through when I was working at a nurse, there were a couple apps that we had that would track like steps or something for our health insurance, and you would get points and you could get gift cards, whatever. But yeah, I think that we're trending in the right direction in that sense. And I do think that over the next couple of years, we'll see more and more and more people getting on board. I think we'll see more creative programming come out of gyms, like this one that I was talking about at the beginning, this breast cancer program. I'm just learning about it now and just learning about the certification, but they asked about 4 of us to take the class to get certified, and we're planning to start at the beginning of the year. But I think you'll see more of that where gyms are offering maybe more of a selective option for people who are recovering from a certain disease process, cancer, diabetes, things like that.
Right. And you mentioned that you think there's more of a trend in the direction of like more people getting involved. Is that at an age group of the inclusive to all the age groups, you feel like, or that it's more towards like a younger population or middle age or older? Do you think that where do you think that that's coming from?
I see it in person. I see it typically in like the middle-aged, I would say like the teenagers, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I've always seen a lot of them. I wouldn't say I've seen a change in that, but I would say like middle-aged and older, I've seen more of a change of people coming in and just being like, I would middle age, for example, I had a woman and she's like, my mom passed away and I am not doing that. Like I'm not living my life and passing away from this. So, her eyes are opened up from that. And I don't know if more people are seeing their parents pass away, and access to gyms is easier now. There's more availability, and they're like, all right, I'm not gonna put my kids through this. I work with a client right now who's almost 80 and she just needs to work on her balance and mobility. She's like, I just want to feel safe in my own home. She's like, I just don't want to fall and not be able to get up. So I work with her on her balance and mobility. And, for her, and I don't see a lot of people her age group coming in, but for her specifically, she had a fall and it scared her really bad. And she's like, I don't want to move away from my home. So I think that when people have traumatic events happen in their lives that are middle age and older, they tend to come to the gym more. And I don't know if it's more availability of the gym. I don't know if it's availability of what's on social media, education out there. I don't know why, but I am seeing more people in that age range come in.
And when you work with somebody like that, it's very unique. It's not like your standard workout program per se. How do you approach that? And how do you, from like your own personal view of like, here's what we're gonna do, and like creating a plan and stuff like that, but also approaching it from the communication side of like, hey, this might not be as like flashy, or this might not be what other people are doing, or this might not be like, you might not see the results in like the same way, but you're going to see those results. Like, how do you communicate that with that person?
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
So her and I just had a really open conversation when she started. I mean, we sat down and like had our first meeting. I had my first meeting with her. She had just happened to come up to the desk and I was standing back there and she was like, my tennis coach, like I fell backward and I need to work on my balance. And I was like, okay, like, do you want to schedule time? Let's sit down and talk. So I was just very open about what the session would include. I was like, listen, we need to work on strengthening your glutes, your hamstrings, but then we need to work on your balance and like how you move your body, just posture wise, how she was standing. And she was like, absolutely, like, I'm ready to go. Can you run me through some stuff? So I did. And after that, she was like, this all feels great. Like, I can't wait to move forward. So I try to give them sit down, talk one-on-one time, but then also like a little taste of what it's actually going to look like. So they know, instead of like they're buying sessions or training and then they come in and they're like, this is not what I thought it would be. Because obviously then it's like, okay, now we got to like back up and figure out expectations versus, yeah, just that lapse in communication.
Right. And, being an in-person personal trainer, what do you feel like you gain the most out of that experience?
I'll start off here by saying I have learned something new from every single client I've worked with. I mean, every single person I've worked with has a different past. They've given me a little nugget of information that I've taken with me. And I love that, just because I feel like that you learn so much about people, and all of that knowledge I now have about just random things that I would never even think I have. I can answer questions now that I didn't even know I'd be able to answer. Outside of that, I think one of the biggest things is just I've learned how to communicate really well with people on hard conversations, hard topics when it comes to health. Because every person that, or for the most part, the people that I work with, I'd say 75% of them do have some sort of health condition or problem or concern. And you learn how to address those concerns or have those hard conversations. And it translates into everyday life, whether it's with a family member, or friend or something like that that's struggling. I've just learned how to be a little bit more gentle around those conversations. Coming from nursing, you don't really show a lot of emotion. It's very, here's the fact, this is what it is, X, Y, and Z. Kind of learned how to communicate better in that gentle area, which has been I would say the biggest thing I've taken from training.
And obviously with fitness and with working out and with nutrition, there's obviously like a factual basis to it, the same way that there would be with medicine or with healthcare. But, you mentioned like just the way that like, okay, this is in nursing, like this is a situation, this is what we say, being like very straightforward, I guess is one way to put it. So when you are talking to someone and it's like, hey, this is what we're going to need to do better. This is what, I'm not seeing you showing up here in the best way. Obviously, there's factual information behind that. There's a series of events that led to that. But, kind of getting a little bit deeper into that, how do you approach that situation and in a way that's like motivational, but also factual and like specific to their situation and like something that's going to be positive and not just like a session where you're just telling someone basically that they suck and they need to do better.
So usually I'll start by something along the lines of like, hey, I've noticed that over the last week, your tracking or your workouts, they just haven't really been where they were before. So is there something going on this week? Maybe like, is there something going on, whether it's with work, whether maybe you got into a fight? A lot of times I'll see people emotionally eat. So typically if someone's tracking and I'm seeing that they're tracking and I'm like looking at what they're eating, I can usually tell if someone's having a bad week because I can tell that they're emotionally eating. So I start with that question because I don't want to just go straight in and be like, hey, I see that you're eating like garbage. Like we need to fix that. It's like, what's going on? Like, what is the actual root cause of why we're in the position we're in? So starting with that. And then sometimes people will like kind of beat around the bush. Like, I don't need to know all the information. I just need to know. And that's basically what I'll say. Like, I don't need to know all the information. I just need to know what happened so I can help you make choices to get back on the right track. A lot of times just breaking it down and saying like, okay, I see this was the problem, or maybe this is what caused this. And here's how we deviated. So next time let's try this, give them an option to try. Because then it's not like I'm scolding you like I'm your parent. It's like, let's have a conversation about it and look at the positive things that we can do next time, because likely it will happen again. We are creatures of habit. So like likely something will happen again and we're going to have the same cravings, or we're going to miss workouts. So how can we combat that next time around? And then coming up with a plan.
How to like handle that psychological situation that you're put in like every single day working with people.
My nursing background, I just worked with people all the time. So it was a little, I would say, it gave me kind of a head start in that aspect. But it's a huge part of it. Like you can't just go through a session and not talk to a client. Like it's just not going to happen. And a lot of times you do have to figure out why they are the way they are, why they're making choices that they're making. And it just comes down to asking the right questions to get the right information. And I don't have the answers to what all the right questions are. I just usually feel it out based on the person and kind of let the conversation flow. But usually it's just starting by a very open-ended question like, I saw this. Can you tell me a little bit about it? And let them go from there.
Looking into the future, what is your outlook on that when it comes to the future of our health and, the population just in general, dealing with all the problems that we're dealing with, whether that be physical health, anxiety and depression and things like that? Like, where do you see us in a matter of 10 to 15 years?
I see it getting better. And I simply say that because of the increase that I've seen in some populations in the gym. I also think like your personal health is becoming like a fad. I don't know if you see that at all, but I see it a lot where like people like your personal health journey, like people are talking about it and they're posting about it. And I don't know if that was a thing 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago. Like, I don't know if that was a thing, but now it seems like people are very serious about getting, not only, I think that physical health and mental health go hand in hand. I really do. And so, when you're focusing on getting your physical health, I think that does help with your mental health. And I think that as the years go on, you have more availability to education as long as you can sift through and figure out what is good quality, what isn't good quality. There's always new information coming out and there's always new ways to take in information. I feel like, excuse me. So I do feel like 10 to 15 years will be better off in that sense. I don't know what it will look like from like what gyms will be offering at that time. I would love for gyms to be offering programs, a lot more gyms to be open, or doctors' offices to actually offer specific programs for, let's just break it down, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, all these people, like in groups where we can actually specifically target these people and give them exactly what they need. I don't know if that's realistic down the road, but it would be great if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I foresee it trending in the right direction, which is good. That's hopeful.
Right. It was really great getting to chat with you tonight. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you want to, before we head out, if you want to share your social media or anything like that, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so Instagram is at Stacia Root, at Stacia.Root. I'm really active on there. Send me a message. I love to chat with new people. Any questions you have, send them my way. Like I said, I love to just chat and collaborate with new individuals. So
if you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.